You're listening to episode 815 of the Father Bills podcast. Welcome back. This week's episode is entitled 3 Advents, given on the first Sunday in Advent 2021. Today we begin Advent, the word which means coming. Advent means coming in Latin. And what is it we are waiting for? What is coming? Well, there are actually more than one comings or Advents to be celebrated. The first is the advent of Christ's incarnation, being born in a manger in Bethlehem. The King of Kings came to us through a virgin named Mary, and his life, death, and resurrection has changed everything. The second advent is when Christ comes again at the end of time. This advent is spoken all throughout the New Testament. Today's gospel is one example. The actual details sound frightening, but know that Christ is using apocalyptic speech, a genre of communication well known by the Jews, not so much by the Romans at that time, to help explain the cosmic events that will accompany Christ's final advent. We are not to brush off his words. Oh no, we are to take them seriously. So don't be drunk or drowsy and be caught unaware or unprepared at the coming of the Lord. Some people have asked, when is it happening? Christ himself has made it clear he does not know himself, but only the Father knows when that will be. So how can we be prepared? Simply by being open to the third kind of Advent. The Advent where Christ comes into our hearts now, today, daily, and for the rest of our lives. It's a type of Advent that can be experienced over and over again. And in fact, I hope that we all have such experiences with Christ every day, getting up out of bed, putting our feet on the ground, and praising God and receiving him one more time as we begin our day. This kind of Advent will prepare us for the final Advent already mentioned when Christ comes in his glory at the end of time. In the context of our season, this third kind of Advent can be experienced here in the church. In fact, look around. Look how we've bedecked our liturgical space with colors and signs. For example, look at the color purple. You're wearing it yourself. I have the vestments, Deacon Bob as well, but you have a mask on, right? Some of you, we're here early enough, we've got the last of the purple masks. I've already ordered some more, so if you didn't get one and you want to wear it next time, you might want to come to an earlier mass. We'll see how that works out. But the idea is those masks can be worn again when you come back. It's another way of just kind of working with the system that we have and delighting in the Advent season. For Catholics, we give meaning to this color of purple to represent our need for preparation and repentance. Repentance. This is akin to the type of repentance we think about in Lent, and that's why they have similar colors. If you get really technical, there's different hues of purple for the two different seasons. As far as symbols go, it's not hard to notice the candles that are about us. They're present on the wreath here that we've lit for the first time. They are clearly evident in our amazing banners here, along with the color purple, right? Our altar has candles on it. Our sanctuary lamp is a candle. See the red candle over there? Our votive candles, which we have often, they're here every time we come. People light them for a sign of their prayers. They're praying for others and for the advent that they may be having if it's someone who's passed away. So candles help us remind us that Christ is the light of the world. We even had a baptism last night, and we brought in our large Easter candle. Our previous one we had pretty well got so small that we had to replace it with retrofitting last year's for this year. This year's is still almost, the one we're now using was almost twice the size of the one that burned itself down. So the light is an important symbol for us as Christians. See, we are then to be like Jesus. Remember when we were baptized, or if you don't remember, know that you were anointed. And anointed is the word for the word Christ. We are other Christs. We're called to live like him in his imitation, somehow in the gifts that we've been given, to be a light to others by offering ourselves sacrificially to others. So as you think about candles, and again I mentioned the Easter candle, notice what is needed for a candle to actually have light, but to have it burn. And in fact, it sacrifices itself. Think about that. The reason a candle exists is to sacrifice itself. Otherwise, it's pointless. It's just decoration. This is not, people in antiquity used light just to be able to see places before electricity. Today, we look at them and we may have forgotten some of these the symbolism of candles. So we light them and they're about us. In ancient times or times past, we might have lit candles in our house, and I don't recommend putting that on your Christmas tree, people. I think enough people have learned the lesson. Leave those for maybe LED lights or something that's safer than a candle. But in this most potent way, as a symbol, we as people are then to encounter others and let them encounter Jesus in us, the light in us, so that as disciples, then we're called to go out and be light in service sacrificially to others. This is what we can do. Thinking in Lent, we have a thing I'm going to do in Lent. This is my whatever dedication or my sacrifice or my Lenten observance. Why not an Advent service, an Advent act where we give ourselves away like a candle gives itself away, and in doing so brings light into the world. And so by extension, this knowledge can infuse a deeper meaning into the Advent activities that we may already be underway in. For example, tonight or today, at some point, I'm going to be out in the house, in the front there. If you drive by, I'll be scurrying about, putting on lights, and I have little LED, little sparkly things, and I'm a nerd, so I have to do that. Or lasers, that's even probably more like it. And we bedeck our houses on the outside and on the inside. We may put up manger scenes. We might dress up a Christmas tree. We might, do other things around our house that bring joy and beauty. And guess where joy and beauty comes from? Who is the source of joy and beauty? But God himself. So, I don't know about you, but how many of you don't answer this out loud, but think about this. How many of you during the season make a trip just driving around to look at the Christmas lights? And in fact, soon, if not already, I haven't looked at the newspaper, they list off a bunch of homes where people have prepared their house. So they invite people to share in that. Now, some are very simple. I think mine might be on the simple side. And some are incredibly ornate where you can actually tune in on the radio. Meanwhile, the lights are dancing and there's all kinds of stuff. I'm like, wow, blow your socks off. But when you look at them, look deeper. Just don't go, oh, those are neato, those are nice. No, ponder more deeply beyond their beauty. And what is that beauty saying? Note, for example, how the lights pierce the darkness. When I would come home from my previous parish, the house was in an area where there was no lights on the street. It was a kind of a long street at a dead end, and I was towards the end. And then driving during this time, after work, it was pretty dark to get down that street. And then eventually it would start to lighten up because I put lights on the house. After a season there, I'm like, this is dreary. And I want to be able to come home to something that's bright and uplifting. And so that's what I did. And I had those little little lights that kind of dangle from the gutters, which, by the way, are a real pain in the patootie when you have to try to pack them up, aren't they? And if you know how to deal with that, please let me know, because I've abandoned them since then. But they're beautiful. And I'd get there and like, wow. And I would be, no matter what happened, I'm like, yes, I'm being welcomed into the light of my home. So note that lights can pierce the darkness. Another one is be mindful of how they make you feel. It is important what we feel, but it's not just about a feeling, but that feeling can well up. Like, what is it trying to communicate to you? Is it helping you in your faith? Because our feelings can get us really off track of our faith. But in this case, as Christians, be mindful. We know this. Christ is the light of the world. Whenever you see lights around, know that they lift you up. It's because it's built into you by God. That we would be lifted up when we see these sparkly lights and candles and things. And finally, this third Advent will be coming momentarily to us all. The same Christ that was born in Bethlehem, that same Christ for whom we just listened to in the gospel, is going to come to us in a physical and spiritual way in the Eucharist. And it's interesting that he was born in Bethlehem, right? The word Bethlehem means house of bread. So isn't it profound that we can connect his birth with his Eucharist, that he's born in a place named after, a foreshadowing of himself, who will be bread for our journey, his very body, soul, and blood and divinity in the Eucharist. He's coming to us. It's an Advent in the here and now. He wants to feed us so that we will go out to a place where there's still darkness, to people who need the light. And it's interesting because his greatness is concealed in a simple, unexceptional, and plain way. Right? We're not talking about, he's not coming in pizza and Pepsi, right? He's coming in very simple bread and wine forms. But we know it's his true presence. So behind what we see and taste, know that it is the same Christ who suffered, died, and rose for us. The one whom we call the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the light of the world. So may this Advent be one which is full of signs and wonders of the glory of God in our lives. The God who came to ultimately raise us from the dead so that we may live with him forever.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of the Father Bill's podcast. If you have any comments or questions, I want to encourage you to go to my website, fatherbill.org. That's FRBILL.org. And there you can email me. You can post something on my Facebook page, see what's going on Twitter, and respond to me. You can also get these podcasts, not just at my website, but also you can look on iTunes. It's also on YouTube. If you go to my YouTube channel, or you can look under Father Bill, FRBILL66. And on my website, that's also considered my Father Geek podcast or video podcast. But basically, it's the YouTube channel that I offer these on. When I publish this out on the internet, I publish it in different places, and those are the most common. In the meantime, may God bless you. Have a blessed Advent, and we'll be back again next week. Bye-bye.